I'm with Charlie Gunningham, the moderator of the panel at today's WA State of Innovation Summit on creating the jobs of the future. Charlie, how much did you enjoy that panel?
What a great panel, weren't they? They were really diverse. As I said to Colin Barnett at the end, I'm used to having lots of middle-aged men in suits. It was just he and me as middle-aged men in suits. But I thought the diversity of the panel really reflected what you have to reflect, which is we're in a very diverse market. So you had all the different accents there, all different ages, the trendy young guys as well, but all the different experiences. Like I love what Nate's doing with SOMA, Skills of the Modern Age. It was really interesting what Colleen was talking about with regional development as well. But are there going to be jobs in the future, and if so, what? Fascinating subject. There are going to be jobs in the future, but it's going to be different. And as I said at the beginning, it's really the skills that people are hiring that's important. People might have a variety of jobs in their 20s and they'll find their way. They'll have a different sort of careers. I've had at least 3 careers. I was a school teacher, then I did a .com, then I was in media, now I'm in government. So that's 4 careers over 30 years. I've had 6 or 7 different jobs, I suppose, and that's just going to be more like that. And then people are going to have portfolio careers. So people are going to have like 1, 2, or 3 different things they're doing at the same time. That's fascinating, but also gives you flexibility, and it's actually quite interesting. And hey, we live in paradise, and we live in a place that's fairly wealthy, and lots of interesting jobs are being created all the time, as well as we've got, of course, the mining industry, we've got government, we've got agriculture, we've got tourism. So there's a lot, I think, to be positive about in WA.
Regional Development Australia, our mandate is economic development. So basically we're very much focused on new business investment, and that will then create that job growth into the future. And leading on from what you said about mindset, I think that's one of those really key things, as well as adaptability, being able to move from one type of job into another. And I think a number of the universities are actually embracing this, where the types of skills that they're teaching students aren't just about that pinnacle of getting that one degree doing that one thing. They're teaching a whole range of skills to try and create this adaptability for the future. And also, I went to the International Congress for drones recently, and there was a really fantastic speaker there who made the point that with robotics, drones, and artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, all of these are based on operating systems. Okay, and so while the labor part of jobs is going to change, we still need that human creativity in order to deal with the operating system, because some of the future jobs will be professional hackers, trying to break things down, and then the people who are basically trying to fix where all those holes are. So it's just thinking that robotics is going to take over and it's going to be done. We still need that human element, and creativity is very fundamental to that.
I'm with Colleen Yates from Regional Development Australia, one of the panellists at today's WA State of Innovation, Creating Jobs of the Future. Thank you for your comments on the panel today. It was lovely listening to you. Tell me what you're excited about with regards to the future of jobs.
Yep. Well, I think a lot of people are concerned that they're going to lose their job. But I think we're moving into a space where we had a lot of linear thinking and process-driven education over the past 30 to 50 years. And we're actually probably going to engage with a cohort of individuals who probably weren't good at that space, but they're really good at that spatial strategic thinking. And I think that's where our solutions are going to come from. So encouraging those individuals to come forward to create the solutions for the future.
And how important is adaptability in that new future?
Adaptability is very important in the sense that in that linear previous world that we've been existing in, for instance, you'd go to university and you'd study all these things and become a specialist of one thing. And what that has done now is that people in particular jobs, that's all they know how to do. So, education, we're going to need to start to learn how to do multiple things. So as the job grows, we are more flexible and more adaptable to the needs of the organization and anything that happens in the future.
How do you think education is going to reflect that? It seems that we're required to move away from this really traditional linear education process as well. What's it going to look like?
I think that's probably the biggest, trickiest bit that we're in now, because we don't seem to be keeping up with the needs of education. And as many of the panelists said, things need to change. It's not just primary, secondary, tertiary education and then you're done. It's about that lifelong learning process. And I was speaking to a lady afterward, and she was saying, she wants to be able to access adult education that's affordable so that she could be adaptable and she could move into new things. So we need to start thinking of that lifelong learning process and developing education programs around that to support it.
I really think a lot of confusions enter the narrative around X amount of jobs are going to be destroyed, when really I think the key to it is looking at the tasks that comprise the jobs. What is the impact of automation and robotics and AI going to be on those tasks? And look at it through that lens, and it's a far more nuanced but far more informed view, I think. So to look at everyone in this room, we'll have certain tasks over, pick your time horizon, but maybe by 2030, there's some research out at the moment that indicates that the average Australian will have 2 hours of potentially productive output freed up. Now the question is, what do we do with that capacity in the economy? If we're clever about it and we fill it with value-added activities, it's actually a positive. So it's a little bit unhelpful to just talk about X amount of jobs will be automated out of existence and these sorts of things. Yes, it creates a good headline, but to actually ignore the jobs that it created.
I am with Julian Coyne, one of the panel members at today's WA State of Innovation on creating the jobs of the future. Julian, one of the things that you discussed on the panel today was the concept of micro-credentialisation. Can you expand on that subject a little for me?
Yes, I certainly can, Deanna. Thank you. So, micro-credentialisation is a new trend that's sweeping universities across the globe. So traditional Ivy League universities in the United States, all the way through to new entrants into the market. It basically refers to the idea that instead of one degree that I might study for 3 years, instead I might have an affiliation with that university across many, many more years. And I might do 6 months here or 6 months there to pick up a new skill. So it's a much more agile modality of education, if you like. You can pick things and navigate your own way through, which I think is quite exciting for this brave new world we face.
Talk to me a little bit about how the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics and drones and all of that kind of thing is going to affect the job sphere and shape jobs in the future.
Okay, so all of that, there's different views on it. All of that would fit under the overarch of this notion of Industry 4.0. Now that's a German concept, but it basically refers to robotics, automation, drones, everything you've just spoken about, all the way through to AI. If I look at a very specific slice of that, which is artificial intelligence, that's probably at the pointy end of all of these developments. So some research has come out actually just before this. I was reading about it from Gartner, and the estimation is that by 2030, 1.8 million jobs will be destroyed by artificial intelligence, but 2.3 million will be created. And the net economic value was, I think, around $1.8 trillion globally. So it's an interesting narrative that artificial intelligence, Industry 4.0, automation, robotics, pick whatever slice is going to only be a negative. We've always had to have these changes. We've always had to cope with these changes in previous revolutions. The only thing I would say is this time around it's a lot faster.
How do we stop people from freaking out about this? You know, you tend to mostly hear the negatives of all of the job losses. What do we do to reassure people that it's going to be okay?
So it makes a good headline, right? And so I think the first comment is that fear and hype are a very counterproductive way to address this. And I think the conversation needs to evolve nationally. So we need more fact-based conversations rather than just looking at the headlines and looking at the hype. I would say with automation, with robotics, that some detailed analysis needs to be done around what is the actual impact, what are the facts, what are the figures, what's our best understanding of what the landscape will look like, because it removes a lot of the fear, which is jumping at shadows in a lot of instances. So those sorts of stories like artificial intelligence, well, a lot of jobs go, but a lot more jobs come if the Gartner research is correct. Those sorts of stories need to get out there and people need to be having the conversation around that as opposed to just focusing on 1.8 million jobs are going to go and that's it without the other side of the story.